Good morning. It is with great pride and enthusiasm that I stand here to endorse the candidacy of Congressman Michael Capuano to be the senator from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In every area that our country is proud of, Michael Capuano has been in the lead. When Michael first came to the Congress, I went to visit him in his office because I had a close relationship with that office, working on housing issues with Joe Kennedy. And there in his office, I saw the beautiful picture of what we call the triple-deckers, the double-deckers.
Triple-deckers.
And there it was, this picture of his motivation about the affordability of housing in his district and for our country, about the people who lived there and their need for jobs and health care and education for their children and their aspirations. His own personal story about achieving success and how others should have that opportunity. Michael Capuano works on that all the time on the Financial Services Committee for affordable housing, for fairness to the consumer, whether it's credit card, interest rates, whatever, or whether it's stopping predatory lending. The consumer is well served by him there. On the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, he has been a champion for jobs, for rebuilding infrastructure America in a green way, creating new jobs for our country. When it comes to the values of our country, he has been in the lead on the Darfur Task Force in the Congress. I was privileged to travel with him and with Barbara to Darfur to see firsthand what the struggle was there and to say, how do we live up to our values as a country? How do we have a values-based foreign policy when we see God's creation so mistreated? Michael Capuano is in the lead in informing Congress on that subject. Jobs, health care, values, the war in Iraq. He's been an ardent and informed, educating other members about his opposition to that war relentlessly from day one and even before. And in representing this district, as I say, the aspirations of the people and meeting their needs, but also the tremendous intellectual resource that this district and this state is to the nation. Michael Capuano was very early on educating members about issues in science. For example, nobody was earlier in bringing members together in the Congress than Michael on the subject of stem cell research. Bringing in scientists from this district, which is so blessed with great intellectual institutions and resources, to inform members in a long process about why this was very important, not only to the health and well-being of the American people, but how important it was not to send this offshore. So on any subject that you can name, including the ethics of the Congress, it took a great deal of courage and astuteness to establish an outside ethics committee panel. This was not met with great jubilation by some members of Congress. And so, but he had the courage, he had the know-how, he had the astuteness, he had the determination to get it done. In short, Michael Capuano has been a leader in all of the areas of concern to the American people. The integrity of our government, the values that we are committed to both at home and abroad, job creation, health care, and I'm here also at this time to thank him for his courageous vote on the health care legislation, to move it to the next stage. Any one of us could have found one reason or another not to vote for the bill, but that was not any excuse for preventing this historic moment from taking place, where the Congress of the United States for the first time stood there to pass legislation fitting comfortably with Social Security, Medicare, and now health care for all Americans. Michael not only was a good vote, he was a leader on the subject, knowing and understanding legislation, challenging us to do better, improving the bill as we went along, and giving us the opportunity to take this bill to the next step. So again, it's with great enthusiasm that I'm here, and I know I speak for many of my colleagues on the Democratic side who support Michael's
Some Republicans too.
Some, oh, okay. Well, he has friends on both sides because, you know what, he's operational. He's not ideological, he's operational. He's there to get the job done for the American people. The solutions can be on the right, on the left, but he has been an ardent progressive in the Congress. He's a tremendous resource to me. I have to admit that it will be my loss when Michael goes to the United States Senate, but I'm very, very proud of his leadership and service in the Congress, and I can't tell you how proud and honored I am to stand with him, to stand with Barbara and their beautiful family as he makes this run for the United States Senate. Good luck to you, Michael. On behalf of our colleagues, thank you for giving me the opportunity to stand with you today. Thank you.
I think you've heard enough from me for the last couple of weeks and probably the next couple of weeks, so I'm just going to open up to questions and thank the Speaker very much for this support and for her friendship and for, more importantly, her leadership. I will tell you that the one thing I do want to make clear, is very clear, is how tough her job is. I say all the time that Republicans are like dogs and Democrats are like cats. Republicans follow the pack. They follow their leader pretty clearly. Democrats, on the other hand, we're all over the place. And you know, we have conservative and liberals and moderates and every other caucus, and it is a darn near impossible job to bring us all together. And the fact that Speaker Pelosi has been so successful at it on such difficult issues and such important issues, to me, is a real leader in this country. She's done a fantastic job moving issues ahead on climate issues, on health care now, on the economic recovery issues. I will tell you, in my estimation, and I'm not kidding, I do not think that there is another member of Congress or another politician or another political leader that I know that could be so successful and so effective at her job. She will take the time to listen. I can't tell you how many, she can't even tell you how many meetings she had with hundreds of members of Congress, actually some of them many times, on lots of detailed issues to get this bill to the point where we could get enough support in the Congress to move it forward. And that doesn't mean it's over. There's a lot of work left to do in the Senate, in the conference committee. There is a lot of work left to do, and the Speaker will be fighting on behalf of us from this point forward until it gets done. So with that, I just want to thank the Speaker very much for her friendship, for her support, and for being back in Boston with us.
Thank you very much, Michael. Did I tell you that we first bonded as Italian Americans? And Michael helped me become not just the first woman Speaker of the House, and he was one of my earliest and hardest working supporters, but also the first Italian American Speaker of the House. I take great pride in that. Thank you, Michael. So you're going to call on people?
How do you select Congressman Capuano to head the Ethics Reform Task Force, and how do you think the Congressional Ethics Office is doing now?
I chose Michael because he had experience. He has headed up our committee that oversees the rules of the House, making recommendations for rules of the House, and that's a tough job, and you have to be quite tough-minded to do it. And as there's so many competing views on the route that we should go. So when we put forth rules of the House, for example, that made it pay as you go, no new deficit spending, it was a recommendation of his committee that made that recommendation. When we talked about living up to the highest ethical standard in the House, Michael's committee made those recommendations. So it was natural that we'd go to such an effective person who had been in the lead on some of these things that talk about the integrity, whether it's the fiscal integrity or the ethical integrity of the House. I knew we would get the job done. I knew he would command the respect of the Republicans. And they came up to one of the leaders came up to me one day on the floor and he said, "You know, I was all set to criticize you, but working with Michael Capuano, he's fair, he knows what he's talking about, he gives us a chance to have our voices be heard." And it was because of his leadership and his demeanor and his respect for both sides of the aisle that we were able to get a majority vote to establish that committee. There are some growing pains, but I think that it's a very important resource to the highest, enforcing the highest ethical standard in the House, and I thank Michael Capuano for his leadership.
We've had a debate here recently about whether after all the work that's gone into the health care bill, if the abortion restrictions can't be taken out of this, whether it's worth killing. Do you agree with the congressman that if those restrictions don't come out, the no vote is the proper vote?
Well, I'm more optimistic than your question poses because no, it isn't the choice. The choice is the following, and thank you for this question because it gives me an opportunity to talk about this. There are three principles on which we all agree, whatever side you are on, if there's such a thing as sides, on this reproductive health issue. One is that we must have a health insurance reform bill. It's necessary for the American people. Secondly, that we will have no federal funding for abortion. It simply will not be in the bill. And third, that we will not change the status quo. There will be no more expansion of or reduction of access to reproductive health in the legislation. Honoring those three principles and with a desire to pass health care reform, I believe we will find our common ground. And so I'm optimistic that that will happen. I know that there's a way to do it, and I know how essential it is to pass health care reform.
But if it does still have that third...
Well, I don't deal in theoreticals. There's one, if you dealt in that, you would never move and do anything. You know, you have to be positive as you go forward to say, how do we make this right? And make sure you understand this. That was going to be in the bill. The Republicans were going to put that in the bill as a motion to recommit. This is more than you want to know. It's inside Washington baseball. But they would have had it in the bill. So it was a question of, do we put it on the motion to recommit, which takes the bill down, or do we have it as an amendment, which Democrats could vote against? And they did in overwhelming numbers, and Michael in the lead on that. So it was very clear that we got more votes than we ever have on the reproductive freedom side against that amendment. So we will find our middle ground, respectful of everyone's concerns, and with great pride that we were able to resolve no federal funding, no expansion or diminution of reproductive health, and passing health care reform.
Last question, guys. Last question.
You argue that voting for the bill in the House is different from voting on the bill in the Senate. Can they be two different votes?
You mean on the Senate or in the conference?
Conference.
Yeah, okay.
The House and the conference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The vote on the floor is a vote to move the process forward. Why would we defeat that and then lose an historic opportunity to go forward? Then you see what happens in conference and then reserve judgment as to whether you want to support the bill at the end of the day. But to stop the process took courage on the part of many of our members, took courage on the part of Michael Capuano to have this go forward and say, we believe that we can find common ground, and at the end of the day, hopefully, we'll have a bill that everyone can support. But it's important for people to know that we will have health care, and it will be without a diminution of a woman's rights, and it will be without federal funding, which is we don't have now. So it's no change in the status quo. So there is a difference between...
And there you have it. This is why she's the speaker. And this is why I have faith in her, because there is no doubt. You heard what she said. She is right, and everybody in the Democratic caucus knows that.
Let me just say this as we leave. I can't be in the state of Massachusetts as we talk about health care reform without talking about Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy made this his life's work, expanding health care for all Americans as a right, not a privilege. You heard the President of the United States, when he spoke to a joint session of Congress, read from the President's letter, the Senator's letter. Remember, he talked about this being the great unfinished business of our nation, that it was about the character of our country. What the President didn't read, because modesty probably prevented him from doing so, is what else it said in that letter. Senator Kennedy said the following. He said, "When I came into public life, we had a new president who inspired a new generation and inspired the world. As I leave, it is with great hope, because we have another young president who is an inspiration to another generation of Americans, and on behalf of our country, an inspiration to the world." He goes on to say that he believes that President Obama is committed to health care and will get the job done, not only because he knows the provisions of the legislation and he can deal with that, but because he knows it's about social justice in America and it's about our future prosperity. And so much of what we're doing is inspired from Massachusetts. So much of it is about being entrepreneurial, about how you go forward, and not to be deterred if some bumps in the road occur, but to get the job done. And I think that Senator Kennedy, speaking for, would have been proud of the fact that we did something historic by passing for the first time in our history legislation that provides health care for all Americans. We not only made history, we made progress that day. Thank you, Michael Capuano, for being operational and helping us to move forward in that way. Thank you.